to the Resistance broadcast, everybody. I'm John. Thank you for joining us today. James and Lacey with me, as always. Lucasfilm is taking a step back. They're gonna really absorb what George created and think about what they're gonna do going forward. So we're taking a step forward, and we're taking over the whole operation just for this one episode, where we're gonna have a little fantasy land for us, where we're going to create our outlines for what we would love to see in a Star Wars movie in terms of production. So who's writing it, who's directing it, who's starring in it, who's doing the music, and what's it going to be about. So we're each bringing our movies to the table, and we're going to have a fun time discussing that.
So go ahead and back out now.
So see you later, everybody. No, this should be fun because it's kind of one of those, like, I don't know, I feel like we've been really getting into serious discussions of late, especially with the Kathleen Kennedy comments and all that stuff. So I feel like this was kind of like a fun idea while also poking a little fun and poking the bear a little bit in terms of the status of Star Wars movies and stuff. So how you guys doing?
Good.
I'm doing good. Yeah. We got, 50 days now till Mando season 2?
50 days. Yeah, that's crazy. So today's the 10th. That's wild. Yeah, summer's done. Summer's over. It's fall time, which means it's Mando time.
It's my favorite time of year. Fall.
We're going to do Mando fan show, go to bed and wake up and it'll be Halloween.
Yeah.
Woo.
Very true. Halloween on a Saturday this year.
Oh, that's cool.
You know
I didn't think about that.
2020 was the perfect year for every holiday. Like 4th of July was on a Saturday.
Yep.
And like no one could do anything. Like, why couldn't it have been the Monday Halloween year or the Monday 4th of July?
Why is that? Why is 4th of July being on a Saturday a good thing?
Or a Friday, whatever it was. Like, there was something good about the weekend element of it. Yeah.
Sure, okay. Because I was going to say, I was like, I would rather have it on a weekday because then you get that day off.
I think it was Friday.
Yeah,
so we got a 3-day weekend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, we even just as we're recording this today, we have a lot of new Resistance officers who are joining us on Patreon recently, especially many of them taking advantage of the vinyl sticker set for commanders and above. But we just want to remind you that the sticker offer on Patreon ends today at noon, I believe, East. So hopefully you're listening to this nice and early. And if you've been thinking about joining us on Patreon, this would be the time because you're getting those 4 vinyl stickers. So head to patreon.com/resistance broadcast to lock that 4 sticker pack up before it ends. And these were going to be
one of them on your shirt?
Gary the Porg is one of them. Yes. Love this guy. And actually, these stickers were going to be our Star Wars celebration and convention like handouts. So they're not going to be on Teespring or anything like that. So this is the time to get them. And if we ever decide to bring them back, we'll bring them back. But right now, that's it. So if you were thinking about joining us, you're like, I was going to wait a little bit. This is the time to do it because you're grabbing all 4 of those, and they're like weatherproof and vinyl. They're high quality stickers that will last you until the end of all time. All right, James, Will of the Force is back. It is back, even though we did, I can't say it's back baby, because we just did it again Thursday, so I can't do the full back baby, but it's back. So what's going on?
I fear nothing, for all this, as the Force wills it.
Well, like you were just alluding to, we've had a lot of new Resistance officers coming in, and, if you guys, seriously, before we get to Will of the Force, I just want to say, because, like, our Patreon is just like wild sometimes, right? We do so much stuff over there. I think we put out like 2 basically hour-long episodes a week, but I think we just did like 35 minutes alone just talking about Kathleen Kennedy. It's just like so much extra content over there. If you're a fan of the podcast, please head over to the Patreon and check that stuff out. Just to get the Discord too is such a great thing too. If you want to join at the commander level, I really feel like everybody who's in there is really just thoroughly enjoying the conversations and stuff. But I definitely know one person that is enjoying, or the group of people enjoying the Discord is the generals, because they have their own specific generals chat, and you would be surprised how active that chat actually is. I do want to give a shout out to our generals really quick before we get into Will of the Force. And our generals right now are Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Jetta Rosewater, Michael Gaines, Bethany, Beerfett Bethany, Russ Harbison, and Kendall Gellner. So thank you very much, generals, for being part of the biggest part of our Patreon. And if you guys are interested in joining, one of the other perks that you get is you get to submit questions to Will the Force. So let's get into that. We're actually, because we've had so many different people joining and we're doing the special offer right now, we're going to go ahead and do a full Patreon submission, Will of the Force this week. So the first one is coming from our Patreon officer, Commander Kyle Baker. Kyle wanted to know, will Din Djarin / Mando, that character, get another updated suit of Beskar armor before the end of Mandalorian Season 2? Lacey, what do you think?
Hey, Kaya. Okay. He will, but I don't think it's going to be a full suit. I think it's going to be a piece. So, like, he got the symbol for his shoulder and the whole suit in Season 1. I think he might get another shoulder piece or some type of replacement with some type of marking on it, because that is probably the best way to make new toys, is like, oh, here's the new one with this new special thing or a new helmet or something. I don't think he's going to get a full brand new suit.
Okay. John, what do you think?
He will not. And I'm just going by the theme, like the Favreau's Western theme. And like these guys, like these Clint Eastwood guys, they don't like get new duds in these movies. They're usually getting battle torn and battle worn, and it shows like the progress or the deconstruction of the character. Like in Season 1, they had this big moment where he goes full Mando and he gets his full Beskar suit, and all of a sudden he's like peak Mandalorian. And I think now from here on out, we may see him emotionally get deconstructed. He's obviously a lot warmer now than he was when we first met him with the child and stuff. We're going to see him get worn out physically too, and because you can't see his face and that sort of stuff, you're going to see like, oh, remember when he got blasted here in this episode? It's going to be there forever, and it's going to become a part of telling the story. So I think he's sticking with what he has, which was that shiny new Beskar that he got in Season 1, and we're going to see that morph over time the rest of the way. Also, like doing a whole nother like dramatic scene where he gets new armor and stuff. I think it's been there, done that.
I think Lacey's actually right when it comes to the like how to add extra things for toys and sales and stuff. But I think, John, you're right on probably how the fact that, you know, his armor is going to stay the way that it is. So I think the middle ground there for me personally, the way I think it's going to go down is he's going to keep his armor, but they're going to bring in a new weapon or a new jetpack or a new, like maybe by the end of it, he gets the Darksaber and they're able to sell the hot toy that has the Darksaber. Or maybe just in general, he has his helmet off a lot more and they're able to sell the hot toy that's just like, oh, it's the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian, this one doesn't have a helmet that comes with it or something, or like a side helmet you can put on the top. But I think they want that look to be like the look. You know what I mean? Just the same way like Boba Fett, even though his stuff is crappy, he just is the look. And I think they wanted to showcase a bad look and get him to the official. Yeah, if that makes sense. Next one that we got here is from Commander Cam Ray, Resistance Officer Cam
Welcome,
Ray.
Cam.
Yeah, Cam wanted to know, will Moff Gideon get a spin-off series, backstory, otherwise, anything like that, after his run on The Mandalorians? John, what do you think? Any spin-off possibility for Moff Gideon?
No, I don't think so. But I do... It's hard for me to say until I see his full run in this show. You know what I mean? Like, if we get 2 or 3 seasons of fleshed out Moff Gideon, I may be like, I'm full, like, I'm good. I don't need another slice or whatever. So it's tough for me to answer that now. But assuming that they will give us enough of him and not kill him off and continue the villain problem that they have, I don't think we'll get a spin-off. But maybe he could pop in other stuff, but I don't think we're going to get a Moff Gideon show. which was what the question is, I guess. Is he going to get a spin-off for his own thing? So I don't think so.
Sure. Lacey, any spin-off show?
No, he will not get a spinoff. I think he is obviously the main villain for The Mandalorian, so that's kind of where he should stay. I don't think he needs another series.
I agree. Yeah, you know what I will say though? I think there's a potential that he could have a cool cameo in Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same way that they're like, oh, Gus, Breaking Bad? How about Gus? What's the other show?
Better Call Saul.
So like pre-Moff.
Before he was blank, this was him. He can make a cameo. He can show up, and everybody's like, "Dang, man!" Because I know where they're going with that character, and he's awesome in The Mandalorian. Yeah, I think it's possible, but no spinoff show. I think he's they're gonna do a spinoff show to a hero first. All right, Patreon officer, Commander Stephen Bowman gets the next question. Stephen was wondering, will any of the announced upcoming Star Wars films, whether it's Feige or Rian Johnson or Taika Waititi, be converted into a Disney Plus miniseries or film in the light of the changing culture and the rise of streaming? This one's for you, Lacey, first, right? Yeah.
Sure.
Any chance that we're gonna see these transferred into Disney Plus shows?
Well, this is tricky because Rian Johnson's mentioned in here, and I don't think his thing's happening. But as for Feige and Taika, I think those are going to remain movies. I think those are tentpole type movies that they're going to remain in the movie theater once we get to, 2023 now? Yeah, I think those are remaining as movies.
Only until they announce that they're pushing it back to 2024.
Oh, jeez.
But they're not going to give you a title or anything.
No.
Sorry.
I
need to make a little joke in there, guys. Joking around.
I'll jump in actually too on this one, because I actually think that's part of this is the fact that it's the creators that are announced. That makes me think that these are going to lock in and these are going to be the movies. But if it was, hey, we're going to make, a movie about blank,
right,
the characters, then that opens the door to be like, never mind, we're going to turn it into a Disney Plus show. And I think why I'm thinking that is because of Kenobi a little bit. Yeah. So John, maybe, I don't know if I change your answer there or not, but what do you think?
Lacey's point about Feige and Taika is strong because just the proof is in the pudding in terms of the draw that Feige, and I think, just speculation, I think Feige's producing Taika's movies. So I think that's a potential for $1 billion box office there. And at 2023, you got to assume we're going to be well post-pandemic. If movie theaters are still around, that thing's going in and people are going to go see it on the big screen. But yeah, the Rian Johnson thing, the only way I could see that being a shift is because we just heard he's doing production work for Netflix stuff with Benioff and Weiss, so it's not below him in any way. His most recent comment, like 6 months ago, about him with Lucasfilm is they're still talking, so maybe that's why we haven't heard anything. Maybe it is shifting into something else. If it's happening. Like, I'm still having very high doubts that it is, especially if Kathleen Kennedy departs, because she's his biggest fan. But I hope we do see Ryan stuff. But that would be the only maybe. But I'm gonna say no right now.
All right. So ding, ding, ding on that one.
Two of them, right?
Have we?
One too.
Yeah, we've agreed. Yeah. Okay. Last Resistance officer question this week. This one's coming from our newest Admiral, Double C, Chris over here. He wanted to know, will we see Star Wars move forward without the Jedi as a focus on Force-sensitive characters that don't have formal training? Okay, so sorry, I kind of read that weird. Are we going to see Star Wars move forward without the Jedi and then focus more on just Force-sensitive characters that don't even have like a formal training? John, I'm starting off with you on this one.
So like the label or the religion of the Jedi is not there, but we still have people who have lightsabers that, like, kind of like Kylo Ren wasn't a Sith, but he's
exactly. I was gonna say in a weird way, kind of the opposite of. I
think 100%. I think this actually touches on what my idea is for like my movie premise. So I think yes, I think so.
Okay. All right. I'm interested to hear what that is. Lacey, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think we will. I think the Jedi, ended with The Last Jedi. But I think the idea of Jedi is still there. I think people still, not even us, but other fans outside of diehard fans still recognize as someone with Force sensitivity as a Jedi, even though they're not a Jedi. Like, you could argue that point being like, well, they technically didn't get trained, and they're going to be like, okay, but they're a good guy and they have that power. They're a Jedi, right? So I don't think the term or idea of Jedi is gone, but like following the religion and stuff without formal training, I could see them doing a total movie without that.
Man, I'm torn on this because I don't know, because the Rian Johnson stuff is just, it's so toss up, right? He's supposed to do the story that's not related to anything you've ever seen before. It's outside of the Galactic Civil War. But I feel like besides his story, the rest of Lucasfilm and all that other stuff is they're just thinking on that particular timeline. Do we want to go before and have like a bunch of Jedi?
How many Jedi can we put in this project?
Or do we want to go after where it's Rey and the New Order of Jedi?
And Finn,
she's Mark Hamill's not the Last Jedi. She, is carrying it on. So I feel like as far as Lucasfilm is concerned right now, no, they're not going to get rid of the Jedi. They're gonna keep that around and be that's going to be their big tie to all these movies from now on. Until Rian Johnson or we find out that Taika Waititi's movie or something is totally away from this and they're exploring the Force in different methods, then yeah, there you go. I want it, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're keeping the Jedi.
Show me a Star Wars movie that doesn't have a lightsaber in it. Never going to happen.
Yeah, almost happened.
Close.
Almost happened twice.
And then right at the end, they get you.
That's when they get you. They're like, oh, they finally did it. Those sons go, oh!
I can show you a Star Wars movie that didn't have a lightsaber in person. That would be Solo, because it wasn't in person.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I know. All right, that is it for Will of the Force. Again, another big thank you to all of our Resistance officers who submitted questions. A great episode, good questions. Had a lot of fun, but now I'm going to toss it over to John to head us into the discussion.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Okay, discussion this week is who writes, directs, and stars in our Star Wars movies. So it's, as you know, listening to the podcast recently, we discussed how it seems Lucasfilm isn't really sure what to do regarding future Star Wars films. As Kathleen Kennedy put it, they're taking a step back to assess things. So we're going to have some fun and take a step forward. Pretending is fun, so we're in charge of Lucasfilm for a day. And if you're still tuning in, here we are in giving our dream Star Wars movie and cast and crew and plots. So we'll each take a turn to give our picks and our ideas, and then we can talk about those and kind of develop those ideas amongst the three of us. And we'll each take our turns going through ours. And it's kind of like when we did our pitches for episode 9 back in 2018. If you are a longtime listener of the podcast, we kind of each gave our idea of what we thought episode 9 would be like. And some of the ideas hit, and some of the ideas were very fun. So this is a little bit on that theme, but more on the production end. But we're going to have a good time with that now. So I'm guessing based on our pre-recording discussion, you guys want me to go first?
Well, I think we should preface this as John.
We all took it.
John came to us with, hey guys, this is what we're doing for the discussion, which we all were like, oh, a great idea. And he said, what was the exact statement you said? You said, director, writer, starring, could be unknown or something like that.
Well, he also said, "What is your Dreamcast?" And I said, "Well, I mean, it's a video game system from 1999. I don't know if it works anymore."
Shut up. Dreamcast could have been a thing if they had the games, by the way. Sorry, gaming. Anyway, so John said this thing in typical TRB fashion. We each read this differently and came up with a different idea of what it should be, which you will soon find out. But as an example, he said it could be unknown actors, as in like you don't know who's going to fill in the part, but this is what it could be. And I took it as, oh, you need to pick unknown actors because that's what they do for Star Wars. And James, he'll get to his, but it's a stacked cast.
I went all A-list, baby.
So go ahead, John. I just thought we should explain this, this is going to be extra fun because we each interpreted this differently.
Yeah, so like my original idea was, all right, so we'll list who our writer is, our director is, or a few of the actors, and a basic premise, and then the three of us discuss that and then try to develop it and see where it would go or what it would turn into. And Lacey apparently wrote a full script, so she's ready to pitch it.
I really thought about this. I was like, I'm going in prepared this time.
And then there's going to be a slow push in Act 3 on this character's face. And no. All right, so I'll start things off because mine's probably the less developed, I guess, of the three. But my idea is a century after the rise of Skywalker, the current Galactic Republic, the New Republic, at this point it's not new anymore, has been organized in a way to delete all records of the Jedi and all records of the Sith in an effort to thwart people from pursuing Force sensitivity. Basically trying to erase the history because they felt that they witnessed what happens when those types of things are at power, at the height. There's a lot of war and chaos. So trying to snuff out history so it doesn't repeat itself in a sense. There are people who are starting to dig and try to learn and understand what this thing is that's been hidden from them for so long, including my main cast. So the only actor I have cast in mine by name, or actually not just one. So Sigourney Weaver is the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. She's in charge of the government. Love Sigourney Weaver as an actress. I think she'd be great in Star Wars. And Sean Bean plays a professor.
I knew Sean Bean was going to come in.
You knew Sean Bean's coming in here.
I actually didn't know, but as soon as you said it, I said, how stupid am I?
To not have known that.
To not have seen that coming.
So Sean Bean plays a professor who's wise in the history of the Jedi. Like he's been digging up artifacts and old books that are really underground and off the grid, things that are not supposed to exist anymore. And in his own time, trying to learn more so that he can teach it to people. But he's not Force sensitive at all. He just he knows of things and he's trying to surface them because he wants to know why they're being swept under. So he's kind of like they're all a part of this republic. So there's not like some looming empire or anything, but you can see how this republic is, like Lucas said, it's poetry, it rhymes. You can see this republic is almost kind of shifting in a way of like the book burning and then that sort of thing. And then my other cast are two unknown actors, like teenagers, whether they're twins or not. It's going to be a girl and a boy, and it's going to advance to the point where the boy remains good and the girl turns evil, because I think something we haven't seen in Star Wars yet is an evil, Force-sensitive woman. I think that'd be interesting, whereas the boy is good, and then they wind up having a clash. And having it be twins could kind of be cool because it's almost like a tribute to Luke and Leia in a sense. Written by Lawrence Kasdan. I'm sure you guys expected that. And co-written by Stephanie Folsom, who wrote Toy Story 4 and Thor Ragnarok. Because if you can write a movie like Toy Story 4 and be the fourth in the franchise and have it still hold up to the rest of the franchise, I think that's very important. And I think that's...
I still haven't seen that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And it's something that Star Wars obviously could use as someone still writing high quality stuff. And obviously Kasdan's been around for a while, so having someone co-write with him in the modern sense is good. And Thor Ragnarok, obviously a lot of people really liked. So there you have that. And directed by Ryan Coogler. Again, a guy who revived a franchise in the Rocky franchise with Creed. having someone knowing how to work in franchises and do something new and make it fresh and almost revive it again. I think that type of director would be important for Star Wars. And score, I've really taken to this guy, Michael Giacchino. Would do the score for that, and he'd obviously have more than 2 months to do it, and I'd give him plenty of time to do it. So that is my story. I don't have a name for it, so it's the Untitled Star Wars movie. It's a very popular thing to do these days, but that is my idea. I don't know what you guys think, or what could it be expanded upon, and what you like, don't like, thoughts.
I was picturing marketing it in my head, and the first thing I thought of was like children being like, I feel something inside of me, I don't know what it is, and stuff like that. And then like by the end of it, you have the Sean Bean character saying, they don't speak of it anymore, but we know what it is. And then it's like, it's the Force, and then it's like do 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 do. Like,
That's
the title
cool.
comes
That's
up,
cool. Yeah, I like that.
Sounds very X-Men to me. Like the idea that they're like trying to control certain populations that have powers and like don't want people to know or like put them in a certain situation. I'm trying to think also of I think The Giver, right? Is The Giver the book I'm thinking of? Growing up, it's like kind of like the government controls who and sees what and what they're thinking of. It's a very cool concept, and I think it would be interesting to see the Star Wars galaxy without Jedi and Sith. Like, it removes that whole idea, which is funny because we were just talking about how they would never do this. And it kind of makes people think about the importance of that stuff in Star Wars and what it would be like without it.
Yeah, and it would be almost like a stepping stone where by the time you get to a second or third film, there obviously are people that are starting to
it's
find
so
out
good
more
there's a
and more.
second or third.
Well, if it does well, like I knock on wood, I'm hoping this does well.
I know, right? It could really make your career.
Right, I'm hoping it gets a theatrical release, maybe a $30 buy-in on Disney Plus. But I just thought the idea of having the knowledgeable Obi-Wan type be someone who's not Force sensitive at all, but somebody who can be a mentor to these kids, even though they're more powerful than him, so to speak. But he has this knowledge and he wants to like just tell people like, listen, there's this thing going on that you don't know about because they're hiding it, and that there's the intrigue about that, like the cat and mouse sort of thing, which is like a smaller rebellion in itself.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of themes there that are being brought out in the sense of like the overall government is trying to snuff out a group of people by pretending that they don't exist. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's also like, how movies in general, not just Star Wars, but like they often reflect like, what's going on in like real culture or whatever. But I feel like that could be another thing that could tie in with like how mass audiences treat I don't want to say minorities, but I'm trying, you know what I mean? Like political opinion that is often snuffed out because they try to say, that isn't, nobody thinks that. And it's like, no, a lot of people think that. And you just keep cutting away every time we get our chance to speak.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
And
nobody has the Force. The Force is not a real thing. It's a
myth,
bedtime story. And that's not a real thing. And then there's people out there, and every time they try to like utilize the Force, they just get pushed down so hard.
And one last nugget that could be used in this is you can make as they uncover more things or find more things that have since been buried or lost or whatever, you can find out like the whole history of Rey Skywalker, because she's obviously not around anymore, and find out
how many years is it?
100.
100.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
So she's been dead for like 40.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. So that's my my little idea. So who wants to go next
James.
with their idea?
Okay.
Yay.
In you giving yours though, John, I realized there's a couple things that I didn't do. I did not pick a writer. I didn't pick a writer, but I picked, I think, everything else. Right.
So pick a writer right now.
Ryan Johnson.
Written and not directed by Ryan Johnson. Sure. Okay.
He's a good writer. Or Taika.
Okay, my story is it's not galactic at all, because the first thing I thought of is if I tried to do something galactic, I was probably going to end up either in the Old Republic era, or I was going to be basically telling like a episode 10 story, and I was like, I don't know if I want to mess with that. So I went kind of, I don't want to say like the Solo or Rogue One, but like the smaller picture story, and I kind of tried to keep it as close to like a small system of planets or a single planet type story. And the longer I went with this too, I was like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm basically taking all these other movies and their ideas and stuff, but you'll see how it comes out. But anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a planet that is ruled by a king and potentially a queen too. But the king of this planet is Joaquin Phoenix. And
I should have known you'd have him in there too, because he's one of your picks all the time too.
Yeah, there's a couple in here that I like. I originally wrote down Ryan Coogler, and then I was like, I feel like I do that too often. So
I did the same thing. He was my first pick too, and I was like, I always say him. I'm gonna pick someone else.
So, what is John?
I was doing the gladiator thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. He was put into place when the Empire died and the New Republic kind of took over. So my story kind of takes place in that post Return of the Jedi era. And he, even though he was like, supposed to fix the planet and all this other stuff, he was doing fairly well, but then he kind of like became corrupted, and he started like, I don't know. I have this other idea, but we'll get there in a second. The main two characters, though, not the villains, are Ana de Armas and Taron Egerton, and they are husband and wife, and they are basically like peasants, and she's force sensitive, right? And when things start getting worse and worse and worse for the planet, the guy, Joaquin Phoenix, decides that he's going to send these like dark side witches on people and try to explain it off like, I don't know, we're doing what we can to fight them, but it's really like him doing it to kind of cultivate the society of like, they're poor and I'm still rich. He's like putting it on him. Yeah. And when he decides to actually pull the trigger on that, she being force sensitive, is able to use an old family relic of a lightsaber, and she is like owning down these dark entities, and it gets noticed by the king. He brings them in and then says, oh, you're the person that's killing all the dark side people. Well, guess what? I'm the bad guy, and I'm kicking you or getting rid of you or killing you and your husband and getting rid of your family. So she actually gets like, I think they escape. They go away to a different planet. Instead of like being just killed, they like kind of Aladdin it where the guy thinks she's dead, but she's not. And they get contacted years later by the husband's brother, who's played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, because he's awesome, but he's a rough and tumble kind of like pilot dude who always hated the government, who always hated that guy. And he's like, man, it's really bad. You guys got to get back. And through the course of everything, my general story is that they go back, and she is able to kind of, they come up with a plan to take over and defeat the king, and therefore expose the plan and rid the planet of the dark side evil or whatever.
Nice.
Who's your composer?
This is a wild one. You guys ready for this?
Michael?
No.
Oh.
Because that was one of the ones that I was like, I know I go with this one too often. So for the director and the composers, I just looked to movies that I liked, and I
Danny
think
Elfman.
the strongest... What?
Danny Elfman.
Yeah. The strongest piece of score that I've heard in a very long time and is got to be Tron Legacy.
Yes,
so
Daft Punk. Good choice. Solid choice.
Now, I know that Tron is definitely like an electronic feel, so they were a good choice for that. But I will say this, and Star Wars isn't really that at all, but I will say that the strongest piece of music to come out of that Tron soundtrack is the overture,
the opening,
like the Tron theme, and it carries through, and it's orchestral, so it's like, I don't think that they're not capable of doing that. They clearly did it, and it is like one of the best like feel good pieces of music, brings you right back to that movie and wants you to expand in a whole franchise of stuff whenever I hear that music, and they're to blame for that. So yeah. Daft Punk.
Would you have your planet fit the vibe of that? So, because you're centralizing this on one planet with this king, would you make the planet's culture fit like the music? Like, would it be in almost like a Tron feel then?
No.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I picture it a lot like the Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie, where it's like the king versus the peasants.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's like they come up with their like own band of, people to kind of eventually take over and wrong the right or right the wrong that this king has set forth or whatever. That's kind of how I pictured it. So I pictured it a lot more like the Ursos and how they're like farmers and stuff like that. And like, that type of a society of like peasants and people who are, even like Anakin, like on his like sand planet and stuff, they're all kind of like slaves.
Yeah.
It's like, if that was owned or run by, I know it's owned by Jabba the Hutt or run by Jabba the Hutt, but I mean like if it was like a king or whatever, and it's Anakin's journey to like rise up and defeat the king, like being a peasant or a slave, I think that's kind of where I was going with it, and less like technological Coruscant-y. I did have Ryan Coogler written down, my director, though, is I was like, man, what's a really good movie that I was just like so happy with the way it was all put together. And it's really funny and ironic, but I looked at Into the Spider-Verse, which was Lord and Miller.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, you know what? What the heck?
Give him another chance.
Movie. Give him another chance. Bring him in and say, look, man, I got all these people, Joaquin Phoenix, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Daft Punk's doing the score. I feel like this has your name written all over it.
Nice. And
welcome back to Star Wars.
Who's writing it?
I did. Apparently Rian Johnson.
All right, cool, man. And it would be an isolated one movie. So, like, would it realize itself?
Yeah.
Where would it take place on the timeline? Did we decide?
Post
yes,
Jedi.
That was after Return of the Jedi. So it's like kind of Mandalorian era, maybe a little bit later. Because this is in that period where the Empire fell and the New Republic was like setting up people to be like the new people of certain planets, but they're so busy with everything else that's going on. A lot of these outer worlds are like, yeah, we're part of the New Republic, but I really don't think they're paying attention. I can pretty much do whatever I want out here. That's where the corruption starts to set in with Joaquin Phoenix character. I also did have, like I said, like the witches, the like dark witches or whatever. I also was thinking maybe give Sophia Botella another chance at the mummy or like the witch type character, since that was so like very promising at it, like, hey, you're gonna lead this new franchise and all this, and it's gonna be really cool. And I don't think it was any like, well, it was one actor's fault. I hate that one guy who was in the movie. But I feel like everything else about it was not like an actor's fault per se.
You would have to.
I feel like she did really good in that.
You would have to complete your story in this one movie because Joaquin Phoenix doesn't do sequels.
He is considering doing Joker sequels, though.
That's true.
He said that.
All right, so maybe.
And you know what's funny?
maybe you're all right.
Is I picked Joaquin Phoenix because of his Gladiator role, and then I was like, he would be a good villain, and he needs to go back to it. And then I was like, oh wait, he just did Joker.
Yeah.
People are gonna think I picked it because of Joker.
Gladiator was 20 years ago now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I actually came across Russell Crowe too, and I thought, man, I don't know, man. He's good, but I just don't think he's got it in him.
I saw a photo of him. I don't know if it was for a movie, but he looked a little rough. All right, that's all right. Cool. Anything else you want to add on top of that?
No, not that I can think of.
All right, Lacey, what do you got?
I'm like super nervous. My hands are sweating.
I'm ready for a rap battle.
Lacey, it's just us.
I know. So to start off,
thousands of people.
Okay. So to start off, the funny thing is I have elements from both of your stories in my story, and you'll see why.
Yeah.
So I wanted mine to take place 15 to 16 years after TFA. So, and I'll explain why. But I was starting that off because you both had different time periods that you were in.
TFA specifically, not Rise of Skywalker?
So it's in reaction to the Hosnian Prime being blown up.
Oh, cool. All right.
So I looked up planets, guys. I did research of which ones didn't blow up. So there is a planet that actually the planet Ben Solo was born on, which is Chandrila, which is Hana City, which is a big city type environment, which is the environment that I wanted, which was initially the capital for the New Republic, but it rotates. So it rotated to a different planet, and that's the one that blew up. I knew there was a lot of controversy on if Ben Solo's planet blew up. It didn't. So it would take place on this planet. Do you guys want me to start with the production stuff or the actual story itself?
Yeah, give us the premise first.
Think
That's
story.
what we've been doing.
I can hear
the
story,
premise
and then
is
you do the production afterwards.
That a senator that wasn't in the New Republic capital, the city basically falls apart after the New Republic gets blown up, and all these crime organizations and syndicates start to take over the city. And he was putting steps in place to protect people and to put these criminals behind bars. So it's kind of got that like Batman-y feel where it's like, oh, they're taking care of the bad guys. And his family gets blown up. Like he witnesses their spaceship car thing blow up and he thinks that they're dead. But what he doesn't realize is that the daughter inside, who's younger, was not blown up because the bad guy that went to go blow them up couldn't blow up a kid. He felt guilty, so he took the kid, but the mom died. So the girl that now the dad thinks is dead has been training with this bad guy who's played by Tom Ellis from Lucifer, of course.
I knew waiting for that.
So the lead girl is played by Angelica Bet Fellini from Teenage Bounty Hunters. She's Blair, who's kind of the more bad twin. So she's not a twin, I'm saying, in that show that I saw her in.
Yeah.
So she would play this lead role and she'd be trained to be a bad guy. She'd be somewhat force sensitive, but Tom Ellis's character would tell her to hide it from the overall crime organization, which is led by Angela Bassett. She is like the overall bad guy.
I like that.
So they're basically running the whole city. The dad leaves the government because he's distraught and he's like, my life is over. The dad is played by William Zabka from Cobra Kai. And he leaves and goes away. So then there's a time passing of like 15 years. So she gets taken when she's like 4 or 5, young enough that she won't remember where she comes from. And now she's older. So she's like 19, 20, 21. So the dad thinks she's dead. She thinks that she's always been a part of this organization because Tom Ellis's character hasn't been honest with her that she came from this other place because he feels guilty about what happened.
The devil.
Exactly. So during that time period, another character, the lead guy in my movie, who's played by Jordan Fisher, he's in a bunch of movies on Netflix. He plays one of the main characters in The Boy I Loved Before. Did anybody see that?
This guy up.
He's really good. He's in a bunch of like Disney shows and stuff. He's still up and coming. So people at home, I picked a lot of people that you might not know the name, but when you see them, you know them,
Yeah, he
because
looks familiar.
I tried to pick people that were up and coming, because a lot of Star Wars people are usually not well known. All right. So then he is Force sensitive, and he's from that city, but he goes to train with Finn and Rey after the Rise of Skywalker to become a Jedi. He's training with them for the 10 to 15 years, and then realizes how bad his home city has gotten, his hometown, and he decides to go back to help with the rising resistance in the city, which is led by this old senator, William Zabka. So then him and the girl kind of meet each other throughout the movie, and they're enemies, but they don't know they're enemies. And then over the course of the movie, she figures out that she's been lied to this whole time, and he knew and she didn't know. And then the dad realizes she's not dead, but she's a bad guy, and that's it. I don't know how it ends. I haven't gotten that far. Okay.
Well thought out. Well thought out.
Thank you.
Good guys win.
Of course, good guys always win. So,
Did they fall in love?
yes, of course.
Okay.
Enemies to lovers, always.
That's what I assumed. You didn't confirm it, so I needed it confirmed.
I'm going to confirm it in a second. Okay.
Oh, you said you were done. I'm sorry.
No, it goes into my production people of why I chose certain people.
Okay.
So, for my director, my first choice was Ryan Coogler, but I always pick him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Joe Wright, and he is the director of Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, Hannah, which is an action movie, and Darkest Hour. So he's really good at war, drama, romance movies. My writer would be Chris McQuarrie, who does the Mission Impossible movies, and Edge of Tomorrow. I think he's like really good at just like action-packed movies with drama and relationships.
Definitely.
And then my composer would be Michael Giacchino. Giacchino. I always say his name wrong.
Still don't know.
Yeah. Okay,
Michael
that's my movie.
Cappuccino.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you do composer?
Michael
Yeah.
Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Do you have a title?
Literally, the last words out of my mouth
Do either of you have a title?
were reacting to your.
James,
composer.
did you have a title, or are you in the untitled boat like me?
Again, I didn't think of a title.
You don't even have a writer.
as a thing. What?
You don't even have a writer yet.
I am untitled.
Yeah, but I picked 5 cast members.
I had
You picked
another-
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, I had another detail that I was throwing around with myself because I'm my own writing team. And the detail would be that Tom Ellis's character is related to William Zabka's character, but I decided to not do that because it was just too much.
Very Cobra Kai.
I know.
My story changed like 16 times because I was like, there were so many different things. I was like, oh, the queen is going to be like good, but then she's going to tip off these people and stuff. And I'm like, nah, none of this is like, I just keep changing it around.
So, Lacey, yours, do you see it as a one film? Is it something that is expanded on? Like you could see?
Well, obviously, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar successful franchise.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at a 3-movie minimum.
I think so. I don't know what the story would be for 3 movies because the only
She's thinking it's going to be so big, they're going to like try to spin off the successful series with their own trilogy.
What Lacey really wants is each character to get their own Netflix series so that she, from the comfort of her home, watch all of her characters' Netflix series and say, created.
So it's funny you say that because my main bad guy is Tom Ellis from Lucifer, Netflix. The lead girl is Angelica from Teenage Bounty Hunters, Netflix. The main dad guy is obviously William Zabka from Cobra Kai. And then Jordan Fisher was the lead guy in the most recent movie with Sabrina Carpenter. It's like a dance movie. He was the lead guy on Netflix.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett was just a really good bad guy in American Horror Story Coven. So
I think I'm you know me, I'm all about, we need to get some women baddies in Star Wars at the top, not the Phasmas. We need some baddies at the top. And also, so let me try to figure this out though. Are any of these people Like, where's the force? What's going on with the force sensitivity with these people? In terms of, we got the one guy who's training with Finn and Rey, but is Angela Bassett like a dark side force user, or is she just some kind of governmental?
She's just a bad crime syndicate.
She's a bad person.
Lady.
Yeah. Okay, I got that. That makes me think of like.
I'm thinking of her as a boss from Luke Cage.
Oh, okay.
The other girl was force sensitive, right?
Yeah, the girl was force sensitive.
I was almost thinking of, you know how, like, what's her name is the bad guy in Gotham? Jada Pinkett?
The Joker.
Like the crime.
Yeah,
boss.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have powers, but she has the power to control people in the sense of she has all these people that work for her.
Yeah.
But the lead girl is force sensitive, but she's taught to not show it because she like, the guy's afraid she'll get taken advantage of. Tom Ellis's character.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. I like that. I think we had three different stories. I think that's good.
And in 3 different time periods.
Yeah.
And in 3 different locations.
And now our listeners, you may have hated all of them. So
they're like, they already tuned out. They're like, we out.
Yeah.
You know, a funny thing though is I'm sitting here and I'm listening to these different stories and stuff, and I'm like, you know, we do different things with our lives, but if you are a director or a writer or anything, it is just like sitting around being like, I have this idea, and they write out the thing or whatever. And when it comes to like the official creatives who work with Lucasfilm and stuff, and I actually was sitting here thinking too that like this is one of those things that like we have this idea and we write it out and we flesh it out, we get it all in canon and all that other stuff, and then it comes out and it's called like Dark Disciple or A Crash of Fate or Alphabet Squadron, and nobody's paying attention to these stories, and it's like that's kind of one of those things where like that's why I'm like I like the books and I like the comics, because they are these stories that are like side stories to Star Wars, but they often get overlooked because they're not part of the main story or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, but how good would these movies be, you know? These are just characters that are in that world.
I get that.
I'm just kind of trying to deal with, like, if Star Wars was the genre, these are the movies that would come out, you know?
Yeah.
These are the stories they would tell.
But I'm thinking like I love movies so much that it's like music means so much to me in terms of like bringing the emotions out. Like if you take out a lot of really good scores from movies, it like knocks out 85% of the emotional value of
like Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of things, a lot of dramas, especially. So like I'm just, all aspects of it, the production and the story side stuff all interest me very much. And there was yesterday, it's funny, I'm like on YouTube, like late at night, just going through like, oh, this video, and then it shows you the next one. And it was a brief interview or clip of J.J. Abrams, and he said, and it's from years ago, and he said, the people who talk about screenwriting the most are people who don't write. He's like, 10% of people actually go through with it and start writing it. So if you write, you're already ahead of the game. And I thought that was very interesting because there's always the Monday morning quarterbacks who are like, oh, you should have wrote this, should have wrote that. And he, in other words, he's saying just write. So I just think that this type of stuff's fun. You know, like we could, you know, it's news is light, and I like doing these things where our audience can get kind of a feel of like what we would like to see. Because now, like in the comments, we want to hear who would you cast? Who would be your director? Who would be your writer? What would your story be? Like, hit us up on Twitter too at RBATSWNN.
Would you see our movies?
Yeah, go see our movies, please, when the theaters come back.
No, I'm saying, like, would you see it? Tell us if you see them.
Well, yeah, let us know if you like our ideas or not, and you can be honest, and we'll have fun discussing it. But definitely drop them in the comments on YouTube. And like Lacey said before, it was either Monday or earlier in this episode, like we're close to 5,000 subscribers, so make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and I don't know, this was fun. I had fun with this. You guys like doing this?
Netflix, a Star Wars story.
Well, it's funny because I think Lacey made a comment that I was gonna Marvel-fy or whatever, and I was like, yeah. And then just now I'm looking down and I'm like, the only connection I think I can make to Marvel is Aaron Taylor Johnson was Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant Marvel-fy in like the way of like
fact
you're gonna
that it was
stack your
all-star
cast.
cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did kind of fear that after you said it, because I was like, oh shoot, I probably am being
No,
like,
yours is
well,
legit.
I'm gonna get Robert Downey Jr.
Oh.
He's gonna be with Tom Holland. Like, yeah.
Well,
But I actually didn't really at all.
I don't always do this, but we do have some connectivity here because we did have the opportunity to hear some of your pitches that made it on this week's Resistance Transmission. So, Lacey, what is their creativity from Lucasfilm, their brand of Lucasfilm or idea of Lucasfilm this week?
Yeah, so it's time for Resistance Transmissions. So usually John puts up a crazy wacky situation. But this week, oh my gosh, it feels like a year.
Doesn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
A wacky situation.
Yeah, he told me what it was before, guys. So I knew what the scenario was, which was this discussion, which we asked you, what is your dream Star Wars movie, writer, director, cast, and plot? And the interesting thing, which is why John was explaining this, is because he put this up as a transmission, and then you guys gave such good answers and such good ideas that John was like, hey, this could be a really fun discussion. So for once, well, not once, but this is a good example that you guys have influenced the show. So make sure to be following us on social channels and engaging with us, because we really take what you say to heart and introduce it into the show and engage with it. So first up is Neil Shaw at Neil Shaw.
What's up, buddy? Way to get your handle, Neil.
Okay, his movie is starring Chris Evans, The Rock, and Emily Blunt. It's written by Kasdan. It's directed by the Russo brothers. And this is the plot. It's the High Republic. A dark side figure brings the end to a time of peace. Co-starring Lacey Gilleran, the British accented second in command to The Rock's evil character. John Hoey, the scoundrel pilot with the characteristic backwards blue hat. James Baney, the Rock god sign of the horns who imparts knowledge to Blunt's character about her powers. I would totally be second in command to The Rock. I've said that before. I tweeted, I feel like a couple of years ago, that I wanted to see The Rock in Star Wars, and I got so much hate on Twitter.
How's your sense of smell, though?
What are you talking about?
Would you be able to smell what he's cooking?
So anyway, I got so much hate on Twitter that it was incredible that people were so angry about The Rock. I was like, he's a good actor and he's a nice guy. Who cares?
The Rock retweeted
Lacey
me
would
once.
be like-
It was awesome.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Lacey would be like, yo, tequila, sir.
That's true.
That's all he does.
Next is Rick Villanueva, Cad's Bane Bounty, and he said a Lord of the Flies type story directed by Dennis. I'm always messing up.
Denny Villeneuve.
Yes, that. I'm always messing up his name and I apologize. Written by Mark Bowl, Zero Dark 30, where a group crashes on ancient Morabad or Exegol. The dark leanings of the world start to corrupt the survivors as they fight to stay alive and make it back home. This sounds like a horror movie.
It's dark for sure.
Next is
Crashes on the ancient Moraband. Yeah, man, that's cool. Sounds great.
Next is Silver Dragon Blade at Jetta Rosewater. Hi, Jetta. She said, starring unknowns, the Resistance broadcast and members, written by me, George Lucas, and Dave Filoni.
Jetta's in the mix.
Yes.
I love it, Jetta. Directed by Jon Favreau and Taika Waititi. She's stacking her.
Jetta has no budget.
I love it. George Lucas is like, hey, Dave, I've been working with this Jetta Rosewater. You want to come over and
The best
help us finish the
You know,
story?
at the end of the movie,
Love
the
it.
credits pop up in the blue letters. It'd be funny if it's
Just me.
written by me, George Lucas, and Dave Filoni.
The plot, unknown pre-Republic era, 200,000 BBY.
All right, so at least Yoda, we know Yoda will not be in that.
No connections, yeah.
Good job.
Next
Jetta.
is Stephen Bowman at Stephen A. Bowman. Hi, Stephen. He said starring Florence, I always mess up her name too, Pugh?
Pew.
Phew.
John David Washington and Aquafina. Ooh. Written by Greta Gerwig. Great. Directed by Richard Linklater. And the plot follows a trio of young Jedi as they struggle to balance their lives with their call of service to the Jedi Order. Ooh.
Their personal lives.
Oh, personal lives, sorry. Yes.
Your Linklater was the Boyhood guy. So he's like, he kind of was winning a lot of awards just because of his like unique style of filmmaking. So I think that's kind of where
this feels like almost like John Hughes meets Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like teenage figuring out who you are and trying to balance that out while becoming an adult. I like that.
Next up is Pedro at Pedro Gringas. Hi, Pedro. And he said, starring William Zabka. Starting his own Jedi Academy. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. I agree.
That's good.
You and me, Pedro. You and
I
me.
don't get the reference at all.
Cobra
I don't know who
Kai.
William Zabka is either.
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
James, I will crane kick you into next Monday's episode, bro.
How awesome was that when that kid did that? And he's like, he stole my move.
I'll
Great kick.
go for the knee.
Sweep the leg.
Sweep the leg.
Is that?
You should have said, I'll get you a body bag.
Wait, isn't that what he does? He hits
sweeps
his knee
the
or
leg.
something? He,
Sweep the
breaks
leg.
his-
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that is it.
Next up is Haley Meyer at Shapely_Buns. Hi, Haley. And she said, starring John David Washington. Ooh, again, love this actor. Written by Dave Filoni, directed by Ryan Johnson, score Kevin Kiner. Plot, a Sith has been discovered in the unknown regions. Washington's character is a Jedi sent to investigate, or whatever genius Ryan and Dave come up with. Nice. Next,
Oh, I have a new pitch for a movie, just because I've heard the name Washington twice. It's the forefathers, the founding forefathers, but they're all Jedi.
next is Sean
John
Santarud.
Adams, George Washington, Ben Franklin, but they're all Jedi, and they have to fight off the Sith British Empire.
At Rude Cold. Okay.
No, I am your forefather.
It's
Yeah,
called
exactly.
It's called Rogue Jedi, starring Keanu Reeves. Ooh, good choice. Written by Derek Kolstad, directed by Chad
Stahelski.
Plot, it's time for the most mature Star Wars ever as Keanu plays a rogue Jedi in a world full of bounty hunters. It's basically John Wick with laser swords. I'd watch it. I'd totally watch that. And last but not least is Brian Eikenberry at Ike FFB. And he said starring Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson. Written by Seth MacFarlane, directed by Seth Rogen. Plot, Ted and Woody run a bar on Coruscant. It's basically Cheers from the 80s in Star Wars.
In.
All right.
I'm in.
Guys, thank you so much for your answers. As I said earlier, usually it's a crazy, wacky situation, but this is good too. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN, and every week John puts up that scenario and you give your answers. Back to you, John.
Thank you for submitting those, and to those who didn't make it on. Podcasts are only so long, but I read all of them. I thought they were all very clever, and we'll probably do more stuff like this in the future, of course. But make sure you do subscribe to the podcast, as we talked about earlier. YouTube, we're close to 5,000, so spread the word on that. Share the videos, tell a friend, keep commenting, keep liking, all that standard stock stuff. But also the audio platforms: Spotify, Podbean, Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, all of those, wherever you get your podcasts. We're twice a week, and next month we're bringing back the Mando Fan Show. So you're going to have us 3 times a week. So you're going to make sure you're definitely subscribed so you don't miss anything, because you can fall behind pretty quickly. And then, of course, every day you're going to StarWarsNewsNet.com for all of your Star Wars news, editorials, reviews, all that stuff. For our shirts, James is wearing one of our new ones. I'm wearing one of our new ones. Teespring.com/stores/Resistance Broadcast. We're probably going to have some Make Solo 2 Happen stuff at the end of this month coming back on sale. So keep your eyes on that. And obviously check out all the current designs we have available to you, including the one that came out, the Rey versus Kylo Ren like Resistance Broadcast Duel, which is in white, and that's up there now too, which we debuted a little while ago. I think that covered everything, right? Yeah. Okay. So you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and at StarWarsNewsNet.com. And yeah, James.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks. Can I jump in 1 second? Realizing he said Woody Harrelson at the end, I actually think of Woody Harrelson as Beckett before any other character he's ever played.
How about that? Wow.
I have a feeling Lacey still thinks of him as Hey Mitch, right? Yeah. But I think
because
Beckett,
his
in my
Beckett
mind,
character
has replaced,
is literally Haymitch, just more mean.
And I was 100% with you until like we made ourselves such a solo-centric podcast. Now I just think of when I see Woody Harrelson, I go, that's Beckett. And that's the only character that sticks out to me. Yep.
Lacey, where are you at?
Well, if you do like the Hunger Games, you can also follow me at Lacey Gilleran on Instagram and Twitter. Also Star Wars, like that too.
I'm going to cast Stephen Ford in my Star Wars movie and make his dream come true.
You didn't say that. You can't do it after the fact.
I can do whatever I want. TRB, baby. All right.
He said dream movie, and right now John is dreaming.
I am dreaming. I'm going to go back to my real life now. So we hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Stay safe out there. Stay positive. And we'll be back, as always, with you on Monday morning with another fun, awesome, informative, great, discussive, beautiful episode right here on the Resistance Broadcast. What's our word?
Bye.
Oh, I was going to wait till you said, see you around, kids, and I was going to say banana bread.
Banana bread? All right. All right, banana bread. See you around, kids.